Hey, I was just listening to a little hummingbird. It's coming to visit. But thanks for watching this video. I had a really awesome conversation with a person named Desiree today, and I'm really excited to share our conversation with you. But before we do that, to honor my own process, I want to show you a video that I made. It was sort of a renewal of an invitation to join me in a conversation. And I posted this renewal of an invitation to chat on the same Facebook page that I posted the first one. And this time I got 2 interested people. So I'm gonna take that as a sign to keep going. And my conversation with Desiree, who you'll meet very soon, was just a gift. And I think there's a ton in there. If you make yourself available to receive it, there's a ton of gold in our conversation, a ton of heart. So I hope you enjoy it. But before then, check out this video. Hey, Sarah. So this is me creating a 19-day follow-up video to the invitation video that I posted a couple weeks ago. A lot has happened since that video, since that intuition came to me. I'm really excited to announce, if you don't already know, that a couple of videos have been born out of that vision. I posted those to my YouTube page. I'll link them below this video. But I wanted to hop on and just express my gratitude. I feel like it's the truth when I say, like, even if you watched my video and considered for a moment, hey, that's a good idea, or I support that, just know that I felt that, and I'm grateful. Big thanks to Tara for joining me in a conversation in the spirit of this vision. And I think it's really beautiful. I'm proud of what we captured, the magic that we captured in that video. And I think it's going to be a light, and that's the intention. So I sat down today to organize some thoughts about what I wanted to say in this video. And the first thing that came up was the question, like, what have I learned since I made that invitation? And the answer is a lot. I feel like I've been given the gift of a deeper, like a greater depth of experience, specifically in the experience of being aligned in like a divine purpose. Shit happens fast here, and I'm loving it. Another thing that I learned was that I got an opportunity to experience, I'm compelled to say, although I don't have a frame of reference, I'm compelled to say, like, if you know, you know, this moment. But I had this moment this week. It's that moment of sweet surrender where you get to zoom out and see the entirety of your life's experience, and in an instant, it all makes sense. And right after that awareness sets in, you're gifted, or like this new clarity of purpose appears. And for me, like, I just looked up at the sky. It's that moment where you look up at the sky and you just sort of acquiesce and say, like, seriously? That's the mission? That's the moment I had. So thank you for creating a space for me to move through what I need to move through to be given that moment. That's not lost on me how special that is. So thank you. So with this video, I hope to renew my invitation. One of the things that I said in the invitation video was that I was getting really stuck in my head, and now I have more clarity about what was actually happening. I want to give a shout out to some of the other creators in this space. You are a light on my path. Tracy, thanks for the video you posted today and the message that you brought through from the Arcturians. I receive all of that, and I feel affirmed, and I thank you for bringing that through. Desiree and Mackenzie, keep shining your light. I get so much from your conversations. Holly, I continue to love the level 3 conversations that you have. Celine, like, I have to kind of like shield my eyes when I look at your content. You are a bright light, a supernova down there in Florida. Keep doing what you're doing. It's inspiring. And so what I meant, I think, when I said I was getting stuck in my head, is that some very necessary programs about not being good enough, or like feeling like I'm not there yet, not where you all are, were keeping me stuck, and I needed to remove those. And so This project has given me the gift of being able to remove those and being able to appreciate the process. I don't need to be like anybody else, and so I'm really leaning into what feels good for me. And I hope that comes through in the content that I'm inviting you to watch. This feels like the beginning of a journey. What's coming through me in these videos and sort of the writing that I've been doing. If you watch the episode that includes the conversation between myself and Tara, you'll learn a little bit about the journey that has brought me to the like playing around with some automatic writing, and that moment that I talked about earlier. Certainly fear could have taken over in that moment, that realization moment, but instead I was given the intuitive nudge to go back into my journal, and that I would find what I needed there. And so I want to read just real quick an entry that I found when I went back to my journal. So this one was written in August sometime. I wrote 8/ and then it must have been coming through me. I think I remember it coming through me so powerfully that I didn't even pause to write the day. But so sometime in August, I sat down and I had been writing in this particular journal and starting with the sort of prompt, start writing, ... And that didn't even come out on this day, but this is how it reads. The mission is to be an example to others on their awakening journey. You have the language, the knowledge, the experience. You will tell your story as a vehicle of permission, reprogramming, supporting, and challenging the stuck parts or stuck areas of the process. This is your mission. You have been prepared, and you are ready. Stop doubting me after asking me to open your heart, guide your thinking, and lead your feet every day, twice a day. So stop and keep writing. We love you. So if that's not magical, I don't know what is. That entry steadied me in that moment of realizing that the call is going to include me being totally authentic, telling the truth of my life as a beacon of authenticity. I have lived a very paradoxical human life, high highs, low lows. But the reality is I enjoyed the shelter of people's projections onto me, projecting that I was a certain person. All the while, I've always been just a soul on the journey. And so there's a lot that I did in plain sight that others just didn't see in me or know about me. And I think that story has to be told. That story has to balance out in some way. And I think what I'm intuiting is the purpose of that is to give people a permission slip to let go of shame, to integrate all parts of themselves and stop pushing the darker parts or the less desirable parts away. To start moving toward ending the war inside of them. And yeah, that seems like the tap on my shoulder that I'm receiving. So if on your journey you have come upon moments like that, if you feel ready or inspired to share about that moment in your life, I invite you to join me in a conversation similar to what Tara and I did, and you'll see if you watch the video. We just donated an hour of our time to a conversation that was totally unstructured, unscripted, and we just connected, and we were just present and sort of holding each other's stories with reverence and appreciation, and that's the work that I want to do. So here's a renewed invitation if you'd like to join me. What came through for me today, as I was preparing to make this video, was that, yes, that invitation is extended, and I hope you'll consider taking me up on it. But what I also know about this community is that you're sitting, some of you every day, with souls on their journey. You're doing QHHT sessions or other modalities that are putting people in contact with their higher selves. And people are waking up every day. And so right now I have 38 subscribers on my YouTube channel, and I've given it to the universe. I know that these videos that I make in the spirit of this vision, and as long as I stay aligned in this purpose, I know that it's going to reach who it needs to reach. And I also have 38 subscribers. So what I realized this morning is that you all are out there witnessing people coming into their own awakenings and sending them on their way with their recordings. And this is what my hunch is that those people are going to need some support on that journey. Maybe somebody donating their story to the effort by showing up and being authentic and just speaking truth and shining their light. And that's what I'm doing with this project. So if you feel inspired to do so, I would love it if you share it with anybody that you believe could benefit from what I'm offering. So thanks in advance for that. I'm grateful. Thanks for watching, and I'll keep you up to date. I invite you along on this journey. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to continue to lead me home to myself, and I'm really excited about that. And if even one other person can benefit from that, then I'm doing what I know I need to do. So yeah, I'll talk to you again soon. Be well. I love you. Bye-bye. So what you won't see at the beginning of my conversation with Desiree is a few moments that we took to check in with each other, to tune in, and to get ready for our conversation. And it's important for me to tell you what I said during that conversation, because the gig is to be an example. So I started a conversation with Desiree today to letting her know and declaring for myself that all of the parts of me, the egoic parts or the shadow parts of me that would have me believe that I wasn't good enough to have that conversation. There's two distinct camps in my head, and Brene Brown speaks to this, and everybody who knows me knows that I was in love with Brene Brown for a long time. The two camps in my head are similar to what she describes: the "you're not good enough" camp and the "who do you think you are" camp. And so I declared before we started a conversation today that I was going to allow those parts of me to come forward. I was going to acknowledge them, and I was going to proceed anyway. That I love them, that I appreciate them, but they weren't going to call the shots today. And so you'll join our conversation right after I shared that with Desiree. And I really think it's beautiful what unfolded between the two of us. And I look forward to more opportunities like this one. So thank you, Desiree, for joining me in a moment and for sharing of your beautiful heart. And I'll look forward to the next time that we can chat. Until then, everybody, enjoy this, and thanks for watching. Hey, Desiree.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for today.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. In full transparency, I want to just acknowledge that we've had an opportunity for a few minutes to just check in with each other and tune in. And I'm grateful that we took that time. And so now anybody who chooses to watch this, if we choose to release it, is brought into that awareness. So that's important to me. So I would love it, Desiree, if you could start us off by just sharing a little bit about what brought you to the decision to want to have a chat with me.
I see so much of myself reflected in you, and I see this courage and bravery. I have the word courage tattooed on my arm. And when I hear you speak about following your passion and living your authentic truth and really putting your voice out there, I see aspects and facets of myself that are undoubtedly reflected back in so many people globally, whether it's direct soul family and connections that we've made, or people that we've yet to connect with, and maybe people that we won't truly consciously connect with in this lifetime. I think when we hold space for these sort of conversations, there's so much that can come from it that we really can't quantify it. The ripple effect, the butterfly effect is so real, and the love and energy that you put into your intentions behind these sort of conversations is what drew me in. It's what speaks to me, and because I know it speaks to me, it speaks to so many people out there. And I think that what you're doing is just truly real. It's from the heart. And I see this going really far for you. Like there's no end into this. And I was also excited to get to know you a little bit better and deepen our connection. I think there's something really beautiful about having already connected through QHHT, through Dolores, and, online a bit, but in taking that a little bit deeper, that always speaks to me. It speaks to the soul.
Yeah, totally. Love that. And I receive all of that. Thanks for seeing the vision with me. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, certainly there in my thinking about how this might go are many avenues that come up immediately or maybe are competing for attention. I'm just in awe. The more people that I meet who have also found themselves coming into the QHHT journey, which for me has only been the last year, since last August. That's when Dolores came into my life. And the person that's sitting here talking to you today is different, but that's not descriptive enough, more expanded. I'm aware of a core of me that remains the same, that will be familiar to people who've known me on the journey so far, when they watch these videos, if they watch these videos. But there's parts of me that I'm just becoming acquainted with, or being introduced to. It's less of a first meeting and more of a remembering, for the most part. And the truth and reconciliation process for me has been the realization, and I speak to this in a video that I made recently. I did post it in that 5D QHHT Soul Family group. But this moment of reckoning or recognizing the details of the mission as I'm, given an opportunity to either choose or refuse at this moment, and I'm choosing it today. And that is bringing me to a place where the call in my life right now is to tell the truth, which sounds simple. And I feel like there's part of my ego that wants to claim that I've always told the truth. And I've always lived a very heart-centered life. But the reality is, there were aspects of me, as I believe there are with all of us, that we just don't bring forward to show everybody all the time. And that's okay. I don't know that it is part of who will be in the future, but it's been the way that we've been. And I've had to come to terms with that for myself. And it's such a beautiful awareness, that I feel is shared in a deep way that I can't quite quantify or wrap words around just yet. All the people who've been called to this QHHT journey, it's such a beautiful journey of reckoning. Because while you're learning a new modality, a new technique, a new helping technique, healing technique, the work is really self-work, and making ourselves available to the greatest extent to be witness to the power of QHHT and to be an instrument of that in a way that allows us to make space for others to come to know themselves. And it's so beautiful. And we come from all different walks of life. And I'm interested, Desiree, you've shared on social, certainly in your conversations with Mackenzie in Decoding the Divine, and on your YouTube channel, you've shared that like coming to QHHT has been a transformative experience in your life. And it found you in a consciousness and in maybe for some a vocation that is so far outside of what QHHT invites us to. So anything that you would want to share or like lean into that as a prompt.
Thank you so much. You hit some really key points about QHHT that is really what served me in a sense. Like it created the path and brought me directly to it. And it is this reckoning. I love that you say it's a reckoning, because you have to take full responsibility for the way you show up in your life, which is why I consider it to be one of the most empowering self-healing modalities, because you're connecting with, it's not like just the higher self, it's your highest self. It
Yeah.
is that part of you that wants you to fully step into everything that you came here to be. Um, and so I hear that in what you're saying, like taking those steps to be authentic, to really honor yourself. And that's what it was like for me right before I was led to QHHT. I'd had enough. I'd had enough. I'd been through various dark nights of the soul. I've had a long healing journey. My childhood was really tumultuous, and I experienced a lot of darkness and pain and abuse all in the very early part of my life. So, as you can imagine, that, sets a certain path ahead of you, especially because certain things that I experienced, some of the worst aspects of human nature. And I say worst, meaning like darker aspects, because one thing that QHHT has really truly taught me through Dolores's work is that there really is no good and bad. It is all about our experience. And so it's a lot of those lower vibrational experiences that I had to fully accept.
Mm.
And while there was a part of me that didn't want to be a victim, in that I had a chip on my shoulder that was as big as a boulder, and I had to really get out of so much belief systems that were holding me back. And it was a gradual process, but what really did it was really looking at my life. Right before I found QHHT, I had to take a good hard look at my life. I wasn't happy. My health wasn't in a great place. The relationships in my life, I always felt like they didn't reflect who I truly was. And there's so much on top of that. I think a lot in my life, I really identify with the stereotypical description of a star seed and Dolores Cannon's description to a T, like the Waves of Volunteers, which is amazing work. So I felt a bit to be a bit of a misfit, and but I felt that in my own life, in my own body, in my own being, and I hadn't always felt that way. So I knew that things had reached a point where something had to change. So I'd made a commitment to myself. I was doing a ton of journaling, and I always journaled on and off, but I've been journaling now, gosh, it's been since 2020. I made the choice that I was going to write, and I was going to be real. I wasn't going to hide anything or sugarcoat anything to myself,
Yeah.
because that's who's reading it. And so I started documenting this journey, and I've always been spiritual. I always loved astrology and tarot, and I've always believed. But it was all just kind of floating around. Wasn't really going anywhere, in a sense. Like it wasn't, it just was part of my being, but I didn't really know how to connect it and bring it all together. So in the journaling, I was being radically honest with myself. And I had some really wonderful guidance from the higher self. Certain books and things were put in my path, like conscious leadership, The Secret, things of that nature had, kind of woven their place in. So I was like, all right, all right, all right. But what it truly came down to was, am I happy in the present moment? Am I doing things that I love? And the real answer was no. So without it making sense, I just decided to start doing the things that I love without a goal attached to it, without trying to really do much other than work on myself in the present moment so that I could be happy with the person I was looking into the mirror at.
Mm.
And um and that's ultimately what did it. Things started to move very quickly after that. It was when I started choosing myself, which I didn't really have a lot of experience in doing, choosing myself, choosing the thing that actually made me happy. I was always kind of doing the opposite of the thing that made me happy, or not speaking my truth. And so I started to do that step by step, and I was documenting it the whole way. So I was really paying attention to all of this. Meanwhile, this magic started to become more visible. I was letting myself feel my emotions. I was accepting things. I started having these really intense visions in broad daylight of visiting these past versions of me where I was actually releasing the negative energy. I was in a sense, it was so healing. I was visiting this past version of who I was and loving her and understanding why I went through what I went through, what I learned from all of it. And I really didn't know what I was doing. And it was until, gosh, I mean, it wasn't that long ago. It was 2022 where I was guided to Dolores, and it was after I'd done these things. So when I was guided directly to Dolores and I saw the power of QHHT and essentially forgiving and, you know, understanding what it means to be empowered, how we're connecting to the higher self, it was a really beautiful demonstration that, hey, this works. Now you get to take it to another level. You get to really dive into it as a modality with a structure. And you can't help but apply these things to yourself because it's all about embodying your highest self. It's all about discovering what your passion is and what your purpose is. And honestly, it's really about, do you love yourself? Do you truly love yourself? I think that's something that was kind of unexpected in all of that, was the love and the redefining of what love is. And I think that that's probably one of the biggest shifts in consciousness or belief systems, is what love truly is, that I am love, that you are love. And this acceptance and oneness is truly what propels us forward. So it was definitely a journey of self-love that brought me to Dolores, and then just busted the door wide open from there.
Totally. I agree, and it's fascinating to me. I don't know that it'll ever manifest as a collection of these observations, but I observe the commonalities between all of us, and it is always in my conversations with other practitioners a journey of self-love and of integrating all parts of ourselves in order to emerge whole. And that is beautiful. Having gone through, I use the words that I was invited to a different level of consciousness in the spring of 2022. Mine took place in the context of chronic illness, a chronic illness that really, in its fullest manifestation, kept me from being able to move anymore. It really was, I feel in retrospect, the story I tell myself is that the universe benched me. My highest self benched me. I had ridden my body till the wheels fell off, literally, in the pursuit of helping others while driving myself off a cliff a lot of times. And I've been given the gift of grace to give that another try, but I had to do a lot of cleanup. I know I too resonate very deeply with 3 Waves of Volunteers. I too, check all those boxes on anybody's list for both like a second wave volunteer, that sort of human design of being a generator, manifester, also just
Manifesting,
what's that?
manifesting generator?
I think so, yeah.
I am too. So I just was curious.
Yeah. This connection and this conversation is on purpose. I believe that. And these are things that I'm coming to learn about myself, but in coming to learn them or remembering them, I am given the gift simultaneously of being able to see evidence of it in the story that was my life before now. And that has been the most beautiful journey of my life. And it continues to unfold. And I am so grateful for the journey, because Dolores, had she entered into my awareness a second before she did, I wouldn't have been able to receive her. I wouldn't have been able to reconcile or allow myself to see value and push past the challenge that is met when you consider taking full responsibility for your life, for all of it, for everything that's happened. That radical responsibility is next level. And we're just, as a culture, not anywhere, I believe on a collective level, anywhere near allowing ourselves to reckon with that. There are ample opportunities being given to us right now. I believe that. I too choose to not live in fear anymore. I refuse to live in fear. And it feels really fucking good to just be in my heart all the time. So I'm going to keep doing that. And beautiful things unfold when I make that choice every day. And so, again, I'm going to keep doing that. But so much of what you're saying, Desiree, it follows this pattern that is profound and seems to be apparent in all the QHHT practitioners that I've spoken with in their own way, with their own details added, you know, and that is divine to me. That makes me trust the process. That makes me trust the unfolding for myself. And I need that right now. I'm still in the forging phase, maybe in some ways. Like I have a lot of unlearning to do. And I speak to in some of my videos the process that I feel like has been primary in my unfolding or my healing journey, my spiritual journey. And maybe you would also say this is true for you in your own ways. That the opportunities for me to not only heal, but also to confront and accept all parts of myself are made available to me every day. You know, in the tarot, they talk about like the tower moment, the tower card, right? Like the sort of like stripping down of everything. And I had a reading by a trusted friend that that was the sort of anchor card in this reading. And my brain didn't want to apply that to me. I had projected it onto another person in relationship in my life. And I thought, okay, I'm going to ready myself for supporting that person through their tower moment. But it was definitely mine. And this project has really given me that opportunity to, in an intentional way, do that work. Because what I'm being asked to do, I think on a spiritual level, what's coming through very clearly for me, and I can't deny anymore, is that it's time. The only way forward is to be totally authentic, and that is to be willing to allow my ego to be released to the extent that I can tell the truth. Because for a lot of years, I held myself up. I used the language that I enjoyed the shelter of the projections of others. Because grew up in a very chaotic home, I became very good at being a duck, like floating beautifully and smoothly across the top of the water, but whose feet and everything that was below the surface was like going crazy. But you wouldn't know that, seeing the grace of this duck on the surface. And I lived my life that way. And so when I say I enjoyed the projection or the shelter of people's projections, is I held myself up to be a person who had it together, a person who was a professional, a person who could be a guide for others, because I had done the work and my heart was ready to offer itself in that way. But the truth was, I was just a human like everybody else, and working through the trauma responses in my body that manifested in very patterned ways, with every iteration becoming more devastating until it got my attention. These certain patterns, these certain wounds that would manifest in these situations that I could easily explain myself away as being the victim of. But the truth is, I was no victim at all. And these situations were designed in a divine way to help me understand that this wound existed for me, and that I would be wise to pay attention to it, to reclaim the parts of myself that were lost or suppressed or wounded in that experience or grouping of experiences, and to proceed, you know, more integrated and more whole. And that journey isn't what is encouraged in our society. There are so many exit routes into victimhood that I know now, having lived the experiences that I've lived, keep you stuck, keep you churning through. And I don't know what exactly will be my role in helping people to understand that and encouraging them by my example to consider going within and getting curious about what might be showing up for them in a patterned way that keeps getting incrementally more devastating. until we take a look at it. But yeah, I feel like a little bit jumbled in my thinking today. I appreciate your patience with that, but I don't know.
I
As I
have
say, all that comes up for you.
things pop through, and I just want to acknowledge what you are saying about the tower and these tower moments that we have, because although it doesn't feel like it at the time, there is so much potent magic when we are slamming down into rock bottom, because as above, as below, as within, as without, we reach those low lows so we can get to our highs, so we can continue climbing, and to really understand that, oh, I got the lesson. I grasped what I am being taught here in this experience. And that's what truly propels us and matures us and expands us in so many ways. And it isn't for the faint of heart. It's those moments where you do have to get really real with yourself and acknowledge, like, okay, this is for me. Like how you said, like, this is not someone else's tower moment. This is my tower moment. And just that choice in acknowledging that that's was for you is tremendously powerful. And sometimes we don't see it in the moment because we're going through it, and that is part of our human experience. But that is this potent energetic shift that happens where, like you said, we can get caught in the triggers, we can get caught in the patterns. I certainly was there, and they keep getting louder, more intense, more painful as we can ignore it. I was there. I was in a relationship pattern. It wasn't serving anybody, but it definitely brought me to a place where enough is enough. And I honor that you took the step to say enough is enough. And no matter, you can only kind of deal with what's happening right here in the present. And that's really all that matters, is the present. Because if you are doing your best in the present moment, you don't have to worry about the future. And it's truly what allows us to rebuild our toolkit, to rebuild our foundation. So that way, even if something happens in the future that is another tower moment, you're not falling back down to the same initial place that you once were. It's a different area, it's something new, and you're more equipped, you're more in tuned, you know what alignment feels like for you. And another thing that really popped in when you were speaking is these sort of lessons and experiences that we're learning is such an indication of how we are meant to truly ascend and expand our consciousness in this present time. Because when you think about like 100 years ago, it's not to say that people weren't experiencing these type of complexities, but they weren't experiencing this many. The energy was very different. And it was a little bit more simple in a sense, because right now we're really focusing on what you said. It's the unlearning. We go through these journeys in life that can never be justified, because I think that's something that we hear a lot of, that I can speak to, is people, parents, they look at like, oh, I can't justify this trauma on children, I can't justify this murder and blah blah blah, all of this destruction and chaos and pain that is very real in this world. No, you can never justify it. That's why we kind of have to take a step back and know that we are all source experiencing itself. We're all on this journey of learning. Children too. Like I said, I experienced a lot of trauma and pain all before the age of 3 years old. That's what allowed me to get my mindset out of this kind of victim mode, or you can't justify these things. You will spin yourself in circles if you'll look at the world as through a very negative lens. And it is kind of like, why me? And you kind of go searching for that. And all paths though lead you back, though, if you really like want to learn, if you really are committed to growth, you'll find it. You'll break through and you'll understand and you'll see that it's not about justification. It is about the unlearning and it is about healing ourselves. And when we heal ourselves, we are healing everything around us. We're healing those old timelines. We're healing everything. And I think that's why the world right now seems so chaotic, is there's so much of that happening. And so you brought up so many amazing points in all of that, and taking it back to a personal level, it is about that discovery though. Like, you are rediscovering who you are on this side of things and how your purpose is, how it unfolds. And I think that what you said about kind of honoring your truth, and that is enough. That is enough, because it's always enough to just be authentic, just as if that's, that's a journey too. But to get to that point is really, really profound, and it's really powerful, because it is the journey of so many people, whether they're conscious of it or not. Just being in the vibration of, hey, I didn't run away from myself. I decided to look at myself in a way that felt uncomfortable. It felt tough at first, but then when you continue doing it, you really see how much love there is in that, because you're honoring yourself, and you kind of see the journey as like, okay, well, why did I go through all that? Why was I in this relationship? Why was I in that job? And it all played a part in the medicine that we offer, because it's medicine for ourselves. And you just don't know the bounds. There are no bounds to what that can do. And I think the beauty in all of that is that, we get to kind of experience ourselves in a new light. And that's what you made me think of. So I'm really grateful you shared that.
Yeah, thanks for like kind of corralling those ideas. And I feel in a dreamy space today. Um, but yeah, I think in preparation for our talk today, I was curious to learn a little bit more about um, how you story your own journey. Like, do you find yourself at a place where things are continuing to unfold for you still every day? It's very active, or are you finding yourself in sort of a more stable point? And how are you finding your footing in that? Yeah, I'm curious.
You know, it's always unfolding. I think I've always had an idea. I keep finding myself going back to, or being reminded of what I was naturally drawn to as a child and what really lit me up. And I find that that's that's what I'm pursuing. And it was a very roundabout way of sort of doing it. Because when I was a little girl, I used to I was very talkative. I didn't really have shyness. I enjoyed speaking. I would line up all my stuffed animals, and I would perform or have these speeches, which I don't even know what I'd be talking about, but I would just be going off, and I that always felt really heartfelt for me, like really heart focused. And then, things happen in life where I started dimming my light and my voice was completely lost. And that person who was not shy became shy and awkward and very like, I don't know how to be or who I am. And so I found myself, this was really cool. My higher self said this in my first QHHT session that I received, that I've unraveled the knot. And I really appreciate that, that analogy, because that's exactly what it feels like. I even feel more loose energetically. I feel more free. I feel more like who I've always been. So it's not about becoming someone different. I feel like I've just become this greater version of who I was then, after I've moved through a lot of the lessons and experiences that I needed, because I do love using my voice. I love participating in these conversations. I love it. And I didn't anticipate what a big part of that would be for me until more recently. And that's when you kind of start seeing the synchronicities of, all right, well, it's just one foot after the other. I like this, I'm going to do this. Okay, I feel called to make a video and share it. My higher self says, do this, I'm going to do it because it scares me in a good way. It's
Yeah.
not scary, oh, I shouldn't do that. It's scary, like, okay, put yourself out there, gotta be brave. Thus the tattoo. And so I didn't anticipate, even by the time so when I had my first QHHT session, did I imagine I would have a podcast with one of my dearest friends? Would I have thought of going on, something like this? Absolutely not. That was not happening. I was just, for me, it was very step by step by step. So the process of unfolding has been really major, but it's shown me so much of who I am and really what I came here to do. And it is being authentic because I've been able to move past my own limiting beliefs, that shyness that I inflicted upon myself, those barriers that I put up. I've been able to move past them. And, I was so scared the first time I put a light language video out there. Oh, because look, people from high school, people from my old life, they were going to see all of this. And I didn't start a new account. I was just going for it. So they're going to get what they get. And almost immediately, I got this message thanking me for putting that light language video out there, asking me questions. And all of a sudden, it was like, wow, it's really about, like, there's this kind of phrase that I have, which is when I started creating content and doing things, is it's not about, how does this phrase go? It's always for the one. It's always for the one. It doesn't matter how many people see it or what people think. It's always for that one person that it resonates with, that it speaks to on a soul level, that it somehow aids them in discovering their own voice or their own skills or abilities or whatever that is inborn to them. It's always for that one person, and everything else is just a bonus. And even the people that, she's weird, or, they've unfollowed, plenty of that has happened, plenty. Or like, what is this? I've gotten it all. But it's allowed me to get really okay with being my authentic self. And I can see just from the one that, there's a reason why we share, there's a reason why we have these conversations. So that's what my journey's been like a little bit, in regards to the voice and the unfolding. I feel like it's always going to unfold, and we're all, like, we are powerful creator beings. We are. And part of that is that switch in consciousness of when we see ourselves as a powerful creator, a powerful manifester. And that's when things start to get exciting. And so I feel like presently that things are starting to get exciting, because, I've learned I'm not saying there won't be hard lessons, but I've learned some really hard lessons in a way where I had to go through it myself. I had to do it these certain ways so I can fully grasp it and then share it. And I see you nodding, so I feel like you probably have something to that too.
Definitely. Yeah, I hope that wasn't a distraction. But yeah, everything you were saying was lighting up examples for me. And I'm likely going to borrow until my own phrase comes to me, that it's always for the one, because I have found that to be true as well. And just my little snippet of listening to The Game of Life and how it's played, the statement that stuck out to me and that kind of keeps churning in my brain was about the divine timing of it all, and how God is never late, and where my ego might want the security of receiving something in the time that I want it to come, it always comes on time. And I'm coming into a journey of that, an awareness of that divine timing is being amplified for me to where it gets my attention and I can develop a relationship of trust with it. And it's been showing up in ways that I am fortunate and grateful to be willing to receive today, that I'm allowing myself to consider as evidence, and that shit's beautiful. It's the most beautiful journey of my life. And I was in my former life before this awakening, and I believe this is one of a couple significant awakening experiences in my life, each bringing me to a higher and more expanded awareness. And this one is still unfolding in a way that in my conversation with Tara, I use the word merciful, and that still rings true for me today. It's coming at such a pace that it keeps me on my toes and it keeps me aware. But also it doesn't, or has not yet, nor do I have any reason to believe that it will overwhelm me to the extent that I can't keep my bearings and keep my focus. That may happen. I'm not calling it in. I've had experiences like that have knocked me off my feet completely. But I see a future that is beautiful and that isn't about that sort of cycling with such great devastation each time. Like the work that I feel that I'm grateful to be allowing in my life today is giving me trust that that sort of cycling, is not going to be a part of my future. It may, but I feel like I'm doing the work of learning what I need to learn and taking the time to do it right, and being very aware of how the power of my words and the stories that I tell myself. That idea, that concept had been breadcrumbing its way to me via, various teachers on my journey as a psychotherapist. I feel like in that role that I held in my life for 16 years, I held that space in my own energy system, a belief in all of the ideas that support that ideology and way of being in the world. And then I offered myself and my heart in shared spaces with clients, but coming from that perspective. And where I'm standing on my path today, I no longer hold those perspectives. They're far more expanded. I haven't tossed them away. There's a lot of truth in them, but they are not the truth from where I'm standing today. And I'm still reconciling that for myself every day and finding new language by seeking new language. I'm on a journey of seeking, and I love that. And I don't need to speed it up in any way. I don't need to be on anybody else's path but my own. And that's not a grace I've ever shown myself. I've always hooked myself into an idea of what I'm supposed to be doing and the timeline for whatever that thing is. And I got really practice, and at times would say I got good at becoming things in the world, becoming these ideas that I pursued, whether that was in the Navy or whether that was in my professional life after the Navy as a therapist. I became these ideas, and I showed up in the world according to those ideas, and people knew me according to those ideas. Did they know all of me? No. I'm just getting to know all of me. And part of that is because I didn't know me. And how could I have shown you me? But part of me, or part of that experience was also just intentionally not showing all of me to others, because I didn't have a belief that that was safe. And that was built upon childhood experiences that my first QHHT session gave me the gift of revisiting. Those moments, I was in those moments again, witnessing my small self in those moments, interactions, mostly with my dad, where there were profound learnings that happened and profound suppressions that happened, that created the adult that I moved through the world as for a lot of years. And that adult achieved quite a bit of success in the egoic realm of professional or academic success. But it wasn't the truth. And I seek the truth today. There's so much more to it, so much more to me. And with this project, I hope to not speak about being an example, but just in real time be an example of this journey. And so thanks for showing up and allowing me to be in that today and witnessing it. I'm grateful. But yeah, the unfolding is merciful and beautiful and divine, and I'm loving it.
I see it and I feel that from you. And I think that you are that. And that's my experience of you. And I resonate so much with what you shared. Um, because it is like getting to know yourself and really truly knowing you, who you are on a multidimensional level as someone who's essentially healed, reversed of, the unlearning, the unraveling. And it is this kind of giving ourselves grace and loving ourselves through it and knowing like, hey, we may have these paradigms in our mind of what it's supposed to look like, but as we continue on this path, we start to release more of that, knowing that it doesn't have to look any other way than the way it's happening. And that in and of itself is what perfection is, because there is no such thing as perfection. And there are so many truths, but what is our truth? What is true for you? What is true for you right here, right now? That is one of the most powerful moments to have as a being here on earth, is what resonates. How do we
Yeah.
just through all of this? And I love that you do have that resonation with The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. And I just want to give her flowers, because that book was written over 100 years ago and her work is incredible. And you said something that reminded me of another one of her works that I recommend. Your word is your wand. And um, and it is. And our word is, what is it for you? What are you creating? What do you want to bring into this reality? How do you want to experience it? And you can rewrite it at any time. Not always so easy, but you can. And that's okay, because that's the journey too. And I'm really, really grateful, like I said, like for this container that you've created here, because I think our stories are reflective of other people's stories. And it's so important to remember that we're not alone. And I've certainly felt alone on my journey. And I know a lot of us have and do, but we really aren't. We truly aren't. Um, and so these sort of spaces that we create are sacred to me, because it's created in love. And I think we're here during a very interesting but spectacular time to get to see this sort of shift with consciousness, with humanity, with what happens in our world, and that we're choosing something that's beautiful, and something where we're not ruled by fear, where we're not ruled by, where we're not ruled. We're sovereign, yet we're connected. And I think that's where things get really exciting, because we've just scratched the surface on all of that, because we're part of rebuilding something for all of us, to get to experience. We're kind of rewriting the game, and that excites me. And this is how we do it. This is exactly how we do it.
Totally. And it's a learning on the like in real time for me, which is also very exciting. My researchy, scientisty kind of brain is just blown away every day by the phenomenological experiences that are happening right now. You know, it's one thing to have an idea or to hear from someone else who maybe I perceive to be a little bit further down the road than me in their awareness of such things, and taking what they're having to say in and considering it. That's one thing, but then to see it sort of manifest in front of your eyes, and similar to what you were sharing, Desiree, like the road does really appear under you when you take the step. And it's happened every single time where I take a risk to say the weird thing, you know, or to tell somebody that I'm a past life regressionist, or that I, you know, do quantum healing hypnosis technique. Say, for example, I'll take a risk to say that in the very public sphere of my job at a grocery store. You know, not having any idea on how the other person will receive that. Every single time that I've taken that risk, it's been met with curiosity, or with like a acknowledgement that helps me to believe and to trust that I just need to say the thing and trust that. that there's something in motion that's far greater than me than I can even conceptualize. And I'm honored to be a part of that process. But it requires of me a willingness, an allowance. And so I try to do that every day. One of the gifts, you mentioned some of the gifts that encountering Dolores's work has offered you in expanding your lens, or maybe helping you to break out of some entrenched victim experiences for you. I too have had those gifts coming out of her work. The biggest one, I think, for me is she's allowed me to zoom out far enough that I can appreciate that I had some choice in the matters of my life, you know, that I, in fact, intended to learn some lessons in this life that are unfolding in ways that I can't conceive of nor understand in the moment a lot of times. I feel like I'm getting better at that because I do hold this new frame. It's easier for me to get to a place of finding the lesson and resisting the urge to go into victim mode. I can see very clearly how my life changed dramatically when I allowed a victim story to take hold of my consciousness. My world got very small and very dark for a period of about 5 years, all necessary. I needed to go through that. It was breaking up a larger pattern I see now. It was essential. And the person who I had cast as the villain in that story, myself, the victim, and this other person, the villain, I loved that story for a long time. I held on to it real tight. I felt entitled to it, and I couldn't appreciate it for the damage that it was causing for me, or the blindness that it was causing for me. And what Dolores's work has helped me to do is zoom out far enough to recognize that the souls who you encounter who like offer the biggest lessons or the biggest pattern interruptions for you that help you to evolve are actually probably those that are like most dear to you. That those soul contracts are actually, you know, contradictory in their nature. It doesn't seem on the surface that they would be loving exchanges, but ultimately they were. And the gift that Dolores gave me in allowing that sort of zooming out and allowing that different story to overlay my experiences was such a liberating experience. I can now let go and forgive the villains who have been cast in my victim stories with grace and with gratitude, you know, because the ones that fucked me up the most were the ones that like taught me the most and helped me to evolve my experience and deepen my experience and open my heart more ultimately once I was able to flick that filter into place and replace all other filters, which has been such a gift. I see you nodding. I wonder, you also have maybe some examples of that.
That's a huge gift. It's a
Yeah.
huge gift, and thank you for sharing that because I think that is it takes it back to love. The way Dolores would always describe it as, you know, if you get there's she would use it from time to time. I think I've watched all of her conferences where, you know, if you're in an alley and you get jumped and beat up by this group of people, those are your friends on the other side, and this is a message. And to anyone who has no idea what we're talking about, you just dropped in on this, that may sound a little silly, but it's true. And you can apply that to any context, like the more emotional experiences, the tougher lessons that we've learned with others. I experienced it firsthand with my mother. And it's been a journey. You know, I watched her die. I watched her anger and her victimhood deteriorate her health into she showed me truly she was a reflection of what happens when you don't listen to your body, when you don't listen to your higher self, when you keep yourself in victim mode, when you blame everything outside of yourself and you refuse to take responsibility for your own life. I saw that happen with her, and there are a lot of layers and levels to what that experience was like as her daughter, and her being someone that we experienced a lot of conflict to the point of, you know, I mean, any way you looked at it, it was a mind fuck. It was a mind fuck. And I'm very grateful for having been on that healing journey and prior to Dolores, because when she came in and I listened to her speak and I read her books and I really understood why we were in each other's lives and what we were meant to learn from each other, I felt like, oh my gosh, this is the part that just I need to let go of. I got it. This is free. This is out. It's done. And, I felt like I had done a lot of work on forgiving my mother, but that really showed me what true forgiveness was. And and one thing that happened really recently that I want to share is I was on a walk, and I don't, so people that are deceased, I don't, I don't do have a lot of visitations, but I do know energy when it visits me. And I would not really feel her very much, if ever, but I felt her. And I received a huge download, tremendous love that she had healed that aspect of her. And this is where we get into multidimensionality. She was in her next incarnation and had made tremendous work. And I felt it. And I felt my mother. And for the first time since she passed, we truly connected. And it was a really, really beautiful moment. And I never thought that, one, I didn't expect anything like that ever, but two, to have that experience and to feel it, because energy just doesn't lie, and you feel it and you know it. And it was yeah, this was just maybe like a month and a half ago. And it was a really beautiful moment. And it just shows that people do change, people choose, things that we may experience may not make sense in the moment, but life has a really beautiful way of bringing things together. I think I just believe so much in all of it, in what we came here to do, what we came here to learn, that we do have these contracts, that we can break these contracts, we can step away from them, but we always have something to learn from each other. And to just receive that information and to feel her as a healed being was something really amazing, because I used to always say, like, I would have loved to know my mother. She was an abused woman who became abusive. That's a little bit about her journey. But I used to say I would have loved to know who she was before all of that happened to her. And I felt like that was a really beautiful gift, was to feel her visit and to experience her as someone different yet familiar. And I'm very, very grateful for that. So a lot of what you're saying, I was thinking about her and what we chose to learn from each other in this lifetime. And it was not easy. So you just never know what can happen. There really is magic in this world.
It's a beautiful story. And asking you shall receive. Yeah, beautiful. What a beautiful like communion of souls. Yeah. Thank
So
you.
so true. And I mean, there was a lot to that experience that I'm still I wouldn't say unpacking, but I'm still letting it sit with me. But I think that that is an indication, that experience is an indication of what we have ahead of us as we move in, move up dimensionally.
Yeah.
Is that things that may at one point not have made sense to our logical mind still resonate and make sense. And I think we're just going to keep seeing more things like that, where we're expanding our view on relationships, connections, energy, and what that looks like dimensionally for humans.
Yeah. I'm here for it. Let's go. All
Cool.
right. So I just want to be aware of our time. I'm grateful for your donation of an hour. Anytime that you would want to bring this recording to an end. And then if you have a second just to speak after, we can chat about next step.
I just want to thank you so much for this conversation, Sarah. You have such a beautiful energy, and being in this state of sharing stories and just speaking freely is really, really beautiful. And I can't wait to see how all of this unfolds for you on your journey.
Thank you so much for showing up.
My pleasure.